Chong Li, the current champ.
He's never been defeated. Holds awesome records, including the fastest KO. He killed a guy during the last Kumite.
Yep, kicked the poor bastard right in the throat. I died right there on the platform. Chong Li stood there and watched him die.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and every once in a while here on the channel, I like to bring in somebody from the independent comic scene to talk about, maybe breaking into the industry as an artist, breaking into the industry as a writer, maybe some, writing tips for prospective writers in the industry. And today I brought a man that has built an entire brand in the indie comic scene to talk about building a brand in indie comics. Brian Ball from RAGS. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Wes? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to have you on the show. I think your third appearance. I'm glad that you're making yourself at home here on Thinking Critical. I like to talk to the most interesting people that I can find, and you were definitely one of them. So you've taken the long way around to comic book success in building your brand. When I talked to Tim Lim, he started out, in commercial design and was making T-shirts for Lucasfilm and Marvel and stuff like that, before breaking into the industry as an artist. When I talked to Aaron Sparrow, he kind of was on the convention scene, getting networking, getting his name out there. Finally got a job at an editorial at Tokyo Pop. Moved his way over to Boom Studios, worked on Disney properties and stuff like that before he started writing. So there are a lot of ways to skin a cat, as we used to say in the military. You kind of just decided to write a comic and just build your own audience in a completely new way.
Yeah, correct. We just decided that, that there was a lot going on in the industry and we weren't seeing anything that we were wanting to work on. And we just decided, like, hey, you know what? If we could just do this ourselves, write a halfway decent story throw some good art on it, maybe people might like it, and we'll just run with it. And that's pretty much what we did.
Yeah, so I got to ask you, you have a very talented team, of course. You are the, what do we call you in the military? HMIC? HMFIC. And then you have your co-writer, which is Trent, your artist, which is Luigi. I believe you have a new colorist, Raven, who's also a military veteran. And then you have kind of a marketing guru / I believe she's the inspiration for the character Rags, Liz Finnegan, correct?
Correct.
Now, so how did you get that motley crew together? Did you guys just all know each other? Or did you have to go out there and find these people?
It's a very long-winded story, but I'll try to keep it short. So Trent and I have known each other since, I want to say, 2011. I was stationed in Korea, and so my routine was I'd wake up, do my dailies in World of Warcraft, and then go to work, and then get off of work, do PT, and then just go hardcore raid. During one of those sessions, I ran into Trent's wife, and then eventually Trent and I became friends. And we didn't really hit it off at first, but eventually we just started playing other games together, like Left 4 Dead, which is Left 4 Dead 2, which became the inspiration for our story. That's how Trent and I met and how we worked together. Luigi, that was a very strange pickup. So another artist that I was trying to get to do some work ended up going into the hospital for a brain tumor, but he owed me about $17,000 worth of work, and Luigi actually came in to help out and finish the project for me. Raven, the colorist, I met during college after I got out of the active duty. She was in one of my project management classes, so we kind of hit it off of love of anime. And then Liz actually was probably like the first person that made me genuinely laugh on Twitter. There's this meme you can find of her holding a cup that says "This means semen," and this is a whole story behind that. But it was just one of the few times I've actually genuinely laughed. I was like, all right, let me follow this woman and see how funny she actually is. It turns out to be just this really just hilarious person.
So, you weren't exactly going out there and searching her talent, but you recognized it when you found it. Correct. So I do see a lot of frustration from indie writers that can't find art talent. I think there's this weird expectation that if I write a great script and I tell people I'm available, that, artists are just going to come find me. But I don't think it really works like that.
No, not at all. So you could have the greatest story in the world, right? But if you don't have the art to back it up as far as comics goes, then it's absolutely nothing. What a lot of writers tend to do is you reach out to artists. They ask them like, hey, do you want to draw my project? It's going to be so amazing. It's going to be this, 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 and this. But then they fail in this one tiny little part where they don't offer the artist any money for their time. And so who wants to write or draw a 140-page graphic novel, if you will, if you're not getting paid? So where I lucked out with Luigi was, I had that GI Bill while also working. So I just kind of floated some of the GI Bill money over to him, like, hey, here's 20 pages worth of money, go ham, dude. And so that's how I just built that relationship up. Working for free, sometimes I'll get free art from Luigi. That's fine, that's cool. But you have to build those relationships. And this is where a lot of writers make the mistake of thinking like, oh, my story is just going to sell this artist on working for me for free, and then maybe 5 or 10 years down the road we'll be millionaires and I can finally pay them off. And that's really like the wrong attitude to have. If I find good fan art on like Twitter or something and somebody shares it with me, I will immediately like message that person like, hey, how much do you want for that? And just buy it from them. And that's just to go to show like, hey, I appreciate the time and effort you put into drawing my character, and you should be paid for that.
Compensating them for their hard work and time, sounds like the best way forward, if you want to get that right art talent. But you could have the greatest concept, you could have the best artists in the world, but if you don't have any customers, you don't have any fans, you don't have anybody that wants to go read your comic, there's no real reason to do it. What did you do to gain such a fervent fan base, specifically on Twitter? Now it's over on Patreon as well, to where people really want to give you money nowadays.
Before we even launched the comic, we did some minor viral marketing. We post memes. We had pinups of Regina. We posted T-shirts, and we did this little mysterious, like, what's this story about? Who's this girl in the onesie? Why does she look like this? We kind of built a kind of mystery around the character before we even launched the comic, if you will. We really we went out and we just tried to engage people one-on-one. Everything that we saw wrong with the creators we didn't like Dan Slott or Mark Waid or whoever, we just tried to do the exact opposite of that as we worked. And then, once we got the comic out and it was ready to show, we spammed the link, and I remember DMing Captain Frugal, like, hey, would you be interested in just doing a short review on this comic? Tell us what you think. And then he does a YouTube video, and that brings in more views. We even reached out to a Comicstorian, and we're like, hey, here's our work. What do you think about it? Would you like to do a review for us? No? Okay, that's cool. But he came back and said, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll actually do a review for it. So, we went out there, we talked to people, with channels, and we just tried to put as much word out there as we possibly could.
One of the things I've kind of noticed is I see some indie comic writers or artists, they're not very personable even on social media. They'll be very nice or professional, but you never see them, you don't always see them engage with other people just like on a human level, to where you're like, hey, I like football too. This is my favorite anime. That movie sucks because of this. And but I always see you out there doing that. You're always interacting people, not always the rest of the team, certainly Liz, but you're always interacting with people and letting them know you're just one of the guys that has a great comic book.
Right. One of the things that we really want people to know is that we're not going to let success hit our heads. I've met so many heroes only just be terribly disappointed in the end. So I try to do the opposite of that. Am I successful at that 100% of the time? No. But I would like to think I have a nice 85% success rate, and I'm happy with that, even though I would like to bump that higher. But it's really just remembering that, the person on the other side of the screen or the account is not just the @name_name. That's a person too. That's a person deserving of respect, whether or not you agree with their opinions or not.
They're not just pixels to you?
Yeah, they're not just pixels. They're not just avatars. Those are people that care about a thing, whether it's comics, football, television shows, movies. They got something that they care about as a fan. And so you just want to let them know that, hey, I care too. I was in your shoes once before too.
So one of the things I think people maybe don't understand, or maybe they don't quite anticipate, is the amount of time it goes into building something like that. How long did it take for you to really get traction to where Antarctic Press was giving you a call, or even returning your calls about maybe publishing your comic book?
Oh, so we're talking since 2016. So we've been working on this book for like 4 years. One of the things I did, and this kind of goes back to viral marketing, is I took when I finally got like versions of the book printed, or at least that first 15 pages, I took it over to IDW, showed it off to other publishers. They all told me no. So then I got to thinking like, well, if they're not going to publish this, I'll just do it myself. Not focusing on other people as a measure of my success, that allowed me to focus on building my audience. And then Antarctic Press saw that, like, okay, this guy knows how to manage a project, build an audience of him by himself, and doesn't need to rely on us to do his work for him. Because they reached out to me, I didn't reach out to them. They're like, hey, who's publishing you guys? Because you guys look like you guys should be handled by either Dark Horse or one of the bigger two names. So what's going on with you guys? I'm like, oh, well, we're doing a comic, we're doing this, we're doing it this way, and nobody wants to see it succeed, but we're going to do it regardless of what they wanted or not.
Yeah. So at that time, you were essentially your own creative team. You're your own marketing team. You're your own publishing team, because you're publishing all your books. You were a one-stop shop for your entire team. That is a lot of work that you have to put in. There's a lot of what do they call it on Shark Tank? A lot of sweat equity that you had to put into your brand before you're ready to go to Antarctic Press or another publisher.
Correct. And like we don't ever stop either. So it's like I got to look at fonts. I got to look at how to letter, the proper way to letter. I got to learn Photoshop. I got to learn how to design a book. I got to learn, like all these things. And it's just like stuff that we just sat down and said, okay, well, when we have time on the weekends, we'll figure all this out, work on it, and then come back and throw it together. A lot of sweat and a lot of work that gets put in. And I told this to some other creators, if you're not willing to put in the work and say like, hey, this is what I'm doing, I believe in it, so I'm going to go the extra mile for this, and this is why you should give me money. You probably shouldn't get into creation anyway. I don't believe
you're probably going to have to
passive
come
or
out
a
of
lazy
pocket
creator.
at the beginning, right?
Oh, most definitely. You're most definitely going to come out of pocket. And this is kind of where, like, I don't like to talk page rates, but when you start working with an artist, you got to figure out, like, okay, what's your page rate? And then you got to find out what your colorist page rate is. And then you have to say, like, okay, this is the minimum amount of money I need to get started, and try to work with that. But, Trent and I, we threw money together to get stuff started and to keep stuff going. And this is where having like the merch foundation in the beginning really worked out, because any money that we got from merch, we just threw back into the book. And that's kind of how we just kept things going. And then once we got the Patreon solid, all that funding just goes, it hits Luigi first, and then goes to print shit about books. And then whatever's left over, that goes to us. So we took the stance of, we're going to make sure our artists and creative team get paid first before we do anything else in this.
So I'm fascinated by the kind of how you do their Patreon model. I've heard a lot of other creators, they've said crowdfunding is really the only model right now, and don't crowdfund a book unless you have a YouTube channel. I think they said 10,000 subscribers. And I kind of laugh at it, especially now. I've been, like I said, this is basically a full-time job for me. And, I work very hard. I'm not all that great of a YouTuber, but I do put a lot of a pretty good content out there. I work with good people. And I'm doing very well, and I've done great. But 10,000 takes a lot of work to get there, especially if you're not an already established artist or a writer or some type of personality in entertainment where people actually already know who you are. It's a lot of work to get, get your name out there, to just tell people, wait till you get 10,000 subscribers. That could take 3 to 4 years for a lot of people if you wanted to start it on a YouTube channel.
Correct. Well, first of all, you're doing way better than I am on YouTube. I looked at the crowdfunding method. Actually, let's go back. There's actually no wrong way to crowdfund a comic or get a comic done. There's absolutely no wrong way. It's all about finding that tool and making that tool work for you. Our Patreon model is a little different from everybody else's because we're putting our backs to the wall and we're saying like, hey, we're doing this, we're doing it out of pocket, and if you want to help out, pledge a little dough, and we'll throw you a version of the book that you're not going to get everywhere else. So crowdfunding and building up the YouTube channel and building the following, that's great and all, but that's not for everybody. I certainly don't have the time or the patience for YouTube. I certainly don't have the time or the patience for Indiegogo or Kickstarter. I don't like the way their models are set up or how they pay out. You can do that, and that can work for you, or you can do our method, which is a little more fire and forget, where we have everything already planned, and all it is just machine work now. I'm also really not a fan of like Kickstarter or Indiegogo because I find that a more lazy method of crowdfunding in that, a creator can go crowdfund a book and then not post any updates for a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years, 9 years, whatever the case.
We've seen people years late on delivering product for funded books.
Or they just take the money and they spend it on things that they probably shouldn't have. Our Patreon model, it requires us to be on time, on budget, and to constantly be creating and updating. Because if you don't, one, you're gonna lose people, and two, you're not gonna get your project moving any faster. It's all about just finding the right tool that works for you and your work style, work method, and just running with it.
So I do want to talk to you a little bit about Scrutiny. Once you start building up your audience, and you have a lot of very loyal fans, but it also comes with a lot of very fervent detractors. I remember, once you got signed up with the Antarctic Press, and everyone was really excited for you. About the same time, I believe Diversity in Comics, had announced that his book Jawbreakers was also going to be on Antarctic Press. And then the whole fiasco with Mark Waid and Diversity in Comics, which is still, working its way through the court system right now. We're not sure exactly how that's going to happen. You guys ended up being in the crosshairs and ended up taking a lot of bullets for something you really had nothing to do with. I guess people just, expected you and your team to break your contract that you had with a publisher for something you had no involvement in. And you took a lot of scrutiny online. Were you prepared for that?
Oh, no, we certainly were not prepared. When that news broke, I was out camping. Liz had taken her kids out to the beach. Trent went to go, I think he was helping his mom build a fence around her house. Like, we were all out just kind of enjoying the fact that, hey, us two drunk guys and a ginger got a zombie titty book published. Haha, it's hilarious. And then I get this message from Liz, like, what the hell did you do? I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. I haven't been on my phone. And then I just had to go check Twitter, and it's just giant dumpster fire. And we were getting accused of so many things, and we're still getting accused of things till this day that we had absolutely nothing to do with. Oh, you guys are the reason why AP dropped SAC and all this stuff. And it's like, wow. First of all, it would have been nice if people just talked to us. But the main thing was, at the time, with everybody yelling and screaming, being angry, and making all these emotional based decisions and reaction, it was very important that we didn't say anything at first. Just kind of let things ride out, let things calm down. To kind of put this in perspective, I was in the Iraq invasion, and there was just some times where, it was better to not shoot and to wait to see what happens before you start engaging the enemy, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And this was just one of those situations where we just kind of stood back, tried to see what everybody was saying, what people were accusing us of. I have absolutely nothing against Zach. We email each other from time to time. We still chat. I wish him nothing but the best in his endeavors. But there was really nothing to be gained from leaving AP just because something happened to somebody else. And I understand, like, another creator just got screwed over really bad. But it just didn't seem right to make a statement that had absolutely nothing to do with me.
That was his business.
Yeah, that was absolutely all his business. He didn't talk to us about it. No one's mentioned anything about it to us. But for some reason, we just got dragged into it. And we were wondering, like, why was everybody mad at us when we didn't do anything? It just didn't have anything to do with it. This was a really weird situation.
It was. Like I said, you guys took a lot of stones on that one. And of course, you persevered, and RAGS is still going strong, still through Antarctic Press. And I think a lot of people are forgiving you, but you're certainly, some people are still mad about it. But what would you say for prospective creators? Like, be prepared. You are probably going to get in a shitstorm, not of your creation, and it's part of. Is it part of being an indie creator?
It's most definitely part of being an indie creator, because that wasn't of all the shitstorms that we dealt with. I actually wish we could actually go back to that one because it was easier to deal with. The more successful you are, the more people are going to talk shit about you, I guess is the saying.
So I'm from a small town, and we would always had a saying is if you start if you're about to leave town and you're going to make something more of your life, everyone's going to try and grab you and pull you back because they don't want to see you succeed.
It's just like that. So you just gotta be. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes you didn't even know you made. Some people are going to assume that you've made mistakes that you didn't make, and all it is just don't react to the first volley of it. Just take a step back, take a deep breath, look at your battlefield, and then work accordingly. Because not everything needs a hot take, if you will. So just because we were getting a lot of rocks thrown at us, it wasn't going to do us good to go and react to every single person, tell them to F off, screw off, we're going to do whatever we want, blah, blah, blah. All it took was us taking a step back and saying, hey, look, we don't agree with this, but this has absolutely nothing to do with us. Our focus is getting this book done and getting it into as many stores as possible, as many hands as possible, and we are going to do that. We're not here to take sides in a fight that has absolutely nothing to do with us. We'll get hated for that for the end of time, but no matter what decision we made, somebody wasn't going to be happy, so we made the one that best fit us.
Do you have any final words or words of encouragement for people out there on what it feels like to get a success and keep riding that wave?
Take "I can't" out of your vocabulary, and you'll be way more successful than you can possibly dream. I know right now we're on quarantine and lockdown, the industry looks bleak, but if you just take a step back and look at how the field is probably going to change, it's going to be changing for the better. So there's going to be a lot more opportunities for other creators to get out there and get their work out to people. Don't be afraid to tackle intimidating things. If you don't know how to inherently do something, I'm always available on Twitter. You can DM me. Our email is, well, I'll give Wes my email, and just reach out, ask questions. There's a lot of knowledge to be gained and out there, and I know a lot of creators like to hold on to that knowledge. I'm not like that. The more knowledge that's out there, the more people are a success, because the comic community as a whole, small, very tight ecosystem. So if one person fails, that means the rest of us fail. So the more people that are successful, whether it just be independent books or even crowdfunding, you want to give them as many tools to be as successful as possible. Because that one you don't lose just one customer, you lose 10. Again, don't be afraid to fail, but also don't be afraid to ask questions, or if things are outside your ability, ask somebody, ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help or just taking a class to learn how to do things.
Brian's contact information and his website and his Patreon and his YouTube channel will all be in the video description. Brian, I really appreciate the time helping out some of the viewers. Maybe start creating that brand and learning from some of your mistakes and a lot of your successes moving forward. Really appreciate it, brother.
Oh, appreciate you having me on. And I really hope everybody learns more from my mistakes than they do from the success. Because there are some things that we were successful at. I was like, wow, how did we pull that off? Even I don't know. But look at the mistakes I made and don't repeat those. And that's going to be like the most important takeaway.